Captain Sisko has Sigma 9 clearance. The text of the Costamogen is for Kai Wynn's eyes alone. And Colonel Kira gets a new uniform, and it looks sharp. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. You know we're going to talk about that, by the way. Today we're doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 21, entitled When It Rains, written by Renee Echeverria, directed by Mr. Michael Dorn. This was May 5th, 1999. Where were you? We have a very special guest today, Colonel Kira herself, also looking sharp, Nana visitor.
Hey, glad to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you.
It's so good having you. Always. We love having you. This might be the last time that you come on this show, Nana, because we are approaching the end of the series at warp speed. We only have, Cirroc, 4 episodes after this of Deep Space Nine?
I think 4 or 5. Yeah.
Wow. How long did it take you to do the whole 7 years?
It'll be almost 4 years. We took a little 6-week hiatus. So I guess it was about 3.5 years, which is what you would expect.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. It's been a real joy to watch your character, Nana, and your portrayal of Kira. And now in this 7th season, it's like, particularly with this episode, we're getting like a full circle on how your character started. You started off as this freedom fighter, as the rebellion, leading the rebellion. You normalized yourself. You went through the emotions of processing of all the stuff that you did, and now it's like here at the end of this 7th season, it's like, oh, by the way, we need you to turn the old Kira back on and teach these guys how to, be fighters and how to, lead a resistance. Yeah. And I think that's a real crazy kind of arc for your character. And I just wanted you to maybe discuss a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's the wisdom. It's coming through, you really, anything that you've been through, even things that you learn, you can't really teach or share until you've digested them. And that's information, that's trauma, whatever. You can't turn out and help until you've done that work. And I feel like she's at that point now where she can turn around. Although, I have to say the scene where I'm sitting there eating the awful food and I'm with the Cardassian, that was, and then I finally throw it. I felt like that was the atmosphere of this pandemic phase we're in. I feel like everyone in the world kind of feels like throwing their bowl of awful food. It's like just one more thing. It reminded me of this time of going, okay, this is what I've got to do. She's not emotionally involved yet with wanting to help the Damar and the Cardassians. This is duty, I thought it looked like to me. But it'll change.
I love that scene. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was like, I had to watch that scene. I don't know. I think I watched it like 10 times because
Really?
Just that scene. Yeah. That part where you get angry leading up to it, because Odo makes a reference. He says, well, they asked him about what did you think was going to happen to your Bajoran prisoners? And he says, I thought they were going to get justice, but then I realized that you Cardassians don't believe in mercy and justice or something like that. And you're just heartless, cold-blooded people. It was that moment I saw Kira take pleasure in Odo saying that to them. There was a moment where you smiled and you were soaking that in. You were like, oh God, I love it. Just tell them.
Because of course their intention was to separate us and to, turn us against each other. And it just like, nope.
Because you defend him right away. You're like, you don't have to answer that. You tell him this is a trap. This is a setup question. They're trying to do this to us. You don't have to answer this. We're not here to play their little word games. And then he said, "Don't worry, I got this, babe.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna answer it."
It was
and
great.
I'm gonna put the mirror right back up on the Kardashians and how they've been treating Bajorans during the occupation, which was fantastic. I love the way you ate it up. Literally, while you were eating it up. You know, like it was amazing. And you smile and you kind of do one of these, yeah, that's my guy right there. And you kind of take a bite, and then this other character, this other Kardashian, I forgot his name. Ryan, you can help us out with that. Damar's kind of secondhand.
Sakal, I think. I
Okay.
wanted. Oh no, Rasot.
Yeah. So
I actually, real quick, I called him Damar personally because
that's what
because Damar was always kind of like the second sidekick bounce off character to Ducat, and then now that Damar's in Ducat's spot, I was like, oh, that's Damar's Damar. And then later on, there was a third guy that was talking to Damar's Damar to bounce. I was like, now that's Damar's Damar, but that's what it was. But anyway. He really
every Kardashian needs a Damar.
Yeah,
he was good. He was good in that role because he gets under your skin, and he clearly hasn't let anything go. He still hates Bajorans, and you can taste that in the scene, and you can taste that as your character. But the moment when you get pissed off and throw that, I had to rewind that. I was like, don't piss Kira off, because I was like, I was thinking that plate must have got demolished. It was metal, but it must have got demolished the way you threw it. Yeah, I was like, and it was so real to me. I was like, oh shit, she's pissed, because my mom gets upset like that too. When she gets mad, she'll just blow up really quickly, out of like from 0 to 100 in like a millisecond. And that's how you were. You were just like, boom, like I'm done, and you get up. And this is the maturity that you've shown throughout the show, you know, how you've grown. You don't react right away. You do realize there's more at hand. There's bigger mission. And you actually get mad at Odo later on for saying, don't remind me of what's at stake. Like, I know what, you know, I'm in control of myself. I know what's going on. And I thought that was just so amazing. But since we only have you for one segment, I really want to ask you this question. Ryan, I'm sorry I'm hogging up time, but I just been
not at all. Not at all. Please.
But so I realize as I'm watching this and through the course of the show that you essentially are the representation of the Bajoran people and Bajor. You bring Bajor to life. I see Bajor through your eyes, and I see the Bajorans essentially through your eyes. And your story makes me empathize with them because of how you told the story and how I see it through your character. And my question is, only few characters in Star Trek have been the introduction of an entire race of people and been the benchmark of that race, like Spock and the Vulcans, Worf and the Klingons, right? We see those people through that character. And I didn't really have to approach the scenes like that. What kind of responsibility, or what is your mindset when you're going in to basically be the window into an entire civilization, you know, a whole race of people?
Well, there is a responsibility, and responsibility is such an interesting thing for anyone who has been on a Star Trek series. I think we all feel it, because we know these stories have lots of different kinds of importance. But because I never thought of it as Bajorans, but as entities that share these kinds of histories, because all over the world there are people who have had the issues that the Bajorans have had. So instead of thinking of it as a Bajoran responsibility, I felt it was a responsibility, a collective of people who have been through something like this and want to see themselves represented, want to see themselves maybe behave in a way they couldn't at the time, or they did, and they want to see the satisfaction with music behind it,
Hmm.
because we get
Yeah.
the music, the hero music behind us. So I thought of it more as a collective rather than just a planet.
And did you think of it also like kind of being the voice for some of the voiceless, some of the weak that were not able to fight like you were able to fight? It didn't have the courage that you have.
Definitely. I definitely saw it that way. Uh, and that's, I would do this little mantra when you know it well at 2 or 3 in the morning when you go, I can't, I'm just gone. I'm mentally disassociating from my body now.
Mm.
And I'd call myself back going, 20 years from now, someone is going to need comfort, going to need a voice, going to need to be distracted, going to need a good story, whatever it is. That, and I would always think of just one person. I go, okay, that's it, I'm back, and I'm doing it for them. And it's so weird now, it's 30 years later, and and I do talk to some of these people, and it was important for people on all kinds of spectrums who could zero in on Kira. And I think it helped that she wasn't specifically, this is how I felt about it anyway. I felt like she was spirit. Didn't really matter the body she was in. Maybe it did to some people, but it never did to me. It was like spirit. And anyone could go, I need that right now. I need to look at that right now. I need to conjure that.
Mm.
That's true. Um, one thing that you do, Nana, better than or as good as anybody I've ever seen is non-verbal reaction shots.
Yeah.
And I thought this episode had incredible moments where you weren't saying anything, but I was hearing so much.
We
And
could do that, right? We could
yes,
do that.
and
As,
you're amazing at doing that. And the moment I'm talking about is when Odo gets the news that he's got this disease that the
Right.
founders have, and Odo's like, all right, and he kind of wants to move on, and he turns, back to, and you're looking at him like, waiting for him to say something, and like, you're like, yeah, I could possibly lose you. And there was so many things flying through my head when I was like, wow, this look is, I had to rewind that about 10 times. Uh, because I thought, and Michael Dorn, to his credit, said, we need a close up on this, and gave you the close up also in that scene. So I also give him a shout out for that, for saying, I need a close up on a just on a reaction look. And I think you do that as well as anybody I've ever seen, because throughout the show, you have been giving us these looks that just say so much on your face. And I just want to make sure I give you credit for that.
thank you, Cirroc.
I love it.
Appreciate that. Last night I watched the show again, and it hit me in a kind of way that when I came back from California and I saw Renee and he told me he was sick, it was that moment again. And it was also the way he told me was like, he was pissed that he was sick. So it was like all I could do was look at him, just like my character. And it was like, oh God, that's weird. I didn't even put that together until I saw that show again.
Mm.
Wow, I didn't even put it together until you just said that. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is there was a moment that did register with me when Odo sees his hand starting to flake, and he wants to cover it up and hide it from you, right? He doesn't want to share his sickness with everybody. He wants to be sick by himself. And
Yep.
Renee kind of did that with his problems. He wanted to do it by himself. He didn't want it to be a story of topic of discussion.
Right. And he sure didn't want the emotion. And I knew I had to suck it all right back in at that moment and just be like, yeah, okay, what's next? And that's not what I was feeling at all. And the Kira moment was exactly that. It was weird.
Wow. Yeah. Very, very amazing moments in this episode. I just, like I said, we see Bajor through your eyes. Then we get introduced into characters like Louise Fletcher playing Kai Wynn and all of the other, Bajoran characters. But the real essence of Bajor seems to resonate for me with Kira because of the principles that you stand on. And I think those principles, if I'm not mistaken, are those are the same kind of principles you live your life by, which is why I would think they resonate on screen so much.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting, you play a character for 7 years, and some of it was I brought, some of it I learned from her. And I cultivated more and more by playing that kind of character and understanding what that feels like to walk on the earth like that.
What does it feel like?
It feels less complicated. It feels like you're not lying to yourself, and you're grounded in something that I think when you hit upon just simple truths in the world, in the universe, you just know it, and it's like, yep, there I am. That's and not that it would be the same thing for somebody else, but just a simple truth of me. It was I needed Kira's guidance. She was a mentor to me.
Mm-hmm.
When I look back on the whole experience, I have very specific memories that stand out more than others, right? Even episodes that resonate with me because they were something that touched me, and so I was attracted to those episodes, and they stand out, and the filming of those stand out. But one of the things that stands out like that, and we haven't gotten to it, but we will, is the love that you showed me, both as a human being, but also as their character towards my character. I felt like you were the most maternal character that Jake really had on the show, and I know that I don't know the circumstances quite exactly because I haven't seen it yet, but I know that the show's going to end kind of with me in your arms, or the two of us, and that's one of the memories that sticks out in my head. Out of everything that I can flash back, is the moment that we shared in those moments where you were embracing me as Jake and saying, "Don't worry, everything's going to be all right."
Me too. Me too. Those stand out to me. It's what is that? What is that between actors? It's Avery would say God shows up, right? He'd say that was a God showing up moment, and it was always like that with you. It was, I mean, it was easy to love you. It was easy to see who you were, this sweet human, So yeah, that was always a joy. I wish there had been more scenes between us. I think I'm going to say that because people always say, "What do you wish had happened that didn't happen?" that.
Yeah, there was a magic there, and
Yeah.
it wasn't expanded on enough because we could have had more moments where I confide in you about something that I couldn't tell my dad, right? And I
Yep.
felt comfortable saying it to you.
But if you're going to have a moment, the last moment of the last show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, we had a big one.
Well, the fans would have wanted that too. I can guarantee you we would have wanted to see more of that because it would create more of a dynamic of kind of blurring the lines. You talk to Cirroc, you talk to Major Kira or Colonel Kira, and it's about her boss and in a way her mentor, and it would really, and Deep Space Nine was always really good about exploring these interesting dynamics that, it would have been great to see. We would have liked to see more of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. And also I can imagine the dynamic between me and Sisko.
Right.
And maybe sometimes he doesn't like it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could have expanded on that. And actually, if they do ask me, I'm going to say that too, because in my head canon, in my head, that's what actually happened because you did that off stage, right? You were there for me in those kinds of ways when the camera wasn't running or it wasn't in the script. And, I thank
It's
you
so
for that.
funny. Cirroc, it's so funny because I thought at the time that you couldn't stand it. It's like, no, stop. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to.
He
Isn't
was a
that funny?
teenager.
Yeah, yeah. It's good to know.
No, I mean, like I said, I have very strong memories of us being in that moment together and it feeling real to me.
Mm.
It actually, like it, I haven't seen it yet, so I haven't even watched this episode, the final episode, but I just in my own memory, it felt real to me, the two of us standing looking out at the stars and, you know,
Yeah.
wondering what tomorrow's going to bring, but knowing that I was comforted by your presence. And I guess that's what I'm saying. You are comforting Nana to the show, to, to everybody around you. And it's part maternal, it's part your courage and confidence and, your abilities, but it's just a pleasure and a comfort to be around you. This is true, guys. This is exactly a memory that stands out. Like out of all the memories on the show, I remember Nana as Kira, but also just Nana, just being there for me, being the person who gives you a hug and says, "Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. You'll be all right. I'm here."
When people say what do you see happening, I say I see, you doing your life, but I'm still on the station and there's connection. It's like you would come and have those discussions with me that young men have with mentors.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
that's what I always see. I don't see becoming Kai. God, I hope that that's not what, I know some places they do, but that's not what I see. Not at
you
all.
know, and this episode we actually get some of you opposite Casey. I think Casey has grown too in this show as Damar and really found his own being this conflicted character, having to represent Cardassians, but also kind of needing you, right? And having to kind of bow down to your superior knowledge in this particular area of combat.
And once again, we're seeing DS9 talk about something that we need to look at now. How do we speak to each other? How do we approach, two different sides needing to work together? And they do it over and over again. But it's not easy, is the answer, but you keep going.
How do we speak to each other? That's a very good, because that did come up in this scene where Garrick is saying, "I think it's inappropriate to ask that question. I wouldn't do that."
Yeah. And I don't think it was helpful that he said, "Ooh, you're lucky. She could have killed you."
But I believed him though. I believed him when he said it. He was telling him the truth. Because
Yeah.
the way you walked off, it was like, I'm sparing you because I know that you're trying to help defeat the same enemy that I have. So we'll be fine as long as that's the case. But as soon as we don't have the same enemy, you know what the deal is.
It's so interesting. Renee said I think it was the last time I saw him. He said, Kira and Damar should have ended up together. But as I think of it,
Wow.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right at all. It would have been too typical, too easy in so many ways. And I loved that she loved a shapeshifter, because
Yeah.
shapeshifting is such a good analogy for a lot of people these days.
Well, and Kira and Damar had their own story and romance in a way, in that they ended their story with mutual respect. That was the arc. That was the love that they formed. That was the bond or the lesson that they learned. It's different than a marriage or something like that, but it certainly is just as powerful and poignant. And I think that was the point of it too.
I agree.
Yeah, I just feel like Kira would never, under any circumstances, ever end up with a Cardassian. It's not going to happen.
No.
Unless it was Damar. That dude. By the way, that was Vaughn Armstrong, everybody. I immediately recognized. I was like, that's Vaughn.
Damar.
Seskal was his name. Yeah, you can see him kind of in the background a little bit, and you immediately see his profile. You're like, that's Vaughn. That's that guy. He only had a couple lines. He may have. He's probably going to be in the next episode or something. I would imagine, because they just kind of introduced those characters a bit. But yeah, that was him.
And let me just talk before we leave me, because I know you need to go and talk about the rest of the episode. Wearing the uniform.
Yes.
Big deal. It was big, and I loved it.
I wanted to ask you, actually, I mean, first when I saw it, like I was blown away. Like Cirroc is definitely the guy that knows more about wardrobe than I do and notices it more. But I loved it. Like as soon as you showed up in that, you looked so great in it, amazing. And I wanted to know, like, if it gave you, and I know, actors allow the makeup to help them form their characters, or the wardrobe or a prop or something like that. Did it give you a slightly different feeling on how to portray the character, or was it just like a personal enjoyment and then, okay, back to work?
You know what it was like? It was like, okay, this part of my brain doesn't have to work to X out the fact that I'm wearing stretch orange, because I knew the point of it. But once I'm wearing a uniform that the men are wearing too, I'm not thinking about any of that. It's not about how I look. It's not about being a woman or a female. It's just, what do I bring? And I felt so comfortable in that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I never
take thinking about it and going, oh no, okay, this is okay. But that's energy in your head, Anytime
and now you were already there.
And I was just, I look like everybody else. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I guess to a certain extent, maybe Kira has felt objectified in some ways, and maybe this is part of that. Like, no, I'm just one of everybody else. I'm part of Starfleet. I represent Starfleet. I'm not.
Yeah.
You don't see me as Bajorn or this or that. I'm just a Starfleet officer.
Yeah.
And there's comfort in that. I can see that.
There really was.
But the outfit itself, I thought, looked stunning on you. And it was funny because Garrick was pretending as if he had tailored it or something. And I did notice that the tailoring was exceptionally good. I was I was like, the shoulders are fitting just right on her. I thought, that's what I was thinking to myself.
Garrick's like, that's me. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, this is not a standard issue. This is a tailored issue.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget, anytime I've got in for a fitting, I put the outfit on and the costumer will say, okay, first of all, let's take the shoulder pads out. And it's like, I'm not wearing shoulder pads.
Yeah.
These are my shoulders. So
right.
I'm built like that. So it was like, it works.
It does work. And you look just beautiful in it. You look marvelous. That's one thing I really love about how dynamic your character is. I've told you this before, but the range is just, it's limitless. And you give us your range when you're talking. You give us your range when you're just not talking and you're reacting to somebody. And I just can't get enough of watching you. And I really like it when you get pissed off sometimes, because I like when you get pissed off. It turns me on a little bit. I'm like, oh,
but I pulled it back. I pulled it back. I didn't lose it.
Yeah, but it's something. Good. It's very attractive. I guess some people are attracted to that, and I'm one of those people that are attracted to a fiery person who wears their emotions, and and reacts. And yeah, I like that spice. Yeah, I like the spice. So just kudos to you. And just
you held it back, Nana, but you took it out on those boxes pretty hard, by the way.
Yeah, I did,
really
didn't I?
For it. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. Feel free to break some boxes up if you want.
I can't imagine how much fun that scene must have been. You're like, so I can just kind of, and they're like, yeah, go nuts. Go crazy. Let it out.
Well, speaking of going nuts, I thought she was going to go nuts when she was face to face with the Cardassian in that moment behind you. I thought she was going to go for a low grab and say, hey,
crap.
But I don't know the Cardassian anatomy. So I was like, uh-oh, he better protect his gonads.
Here. Yeah. You have no idea.
Yeah. I was like, he better protect his privates because she might just give him one.
I know that the men always had a problem with, it was like, because it's built that Kira is, he says she would have killed you, or, I flip a guy because we've worked it out. And some of the guys, it really bothered them. It's like, this is silly. This wouldn't have happened. And, it's like, well, no, you've got to actually, look at Michelle Yeoh. I would think that she's a dangerous weapon to, for real. So I
don't know if anybody's seen any of those UFC fighters, but there's a few women in the UFC champions that I wouldn't mess with because they get me to tap out.
Hell no.
And also when you're a fighter and you've trained your whole life kind of being a resistance fighter like you have, of course you would be better than some just regular layman off the streets who, just got handed a rifle 2 days ago. There's no way that you wouldn't, you've been in so many combat situations and close contact situations. I totally thought that you would be able to kick somebody's ass. Yeah.
Something emotionally that I always felt is that I, as Kira, was like, I don't care how this ends, but it's going to end. I'm going to keep going until it does, one way or the other. Doesn't matter what happens. And that is also kind of that. It's almost on the edge of crazy.
It's almost on the edge of crazy.
That you go, that's dangerous. So I always felt she had that danger too. It's like, I don't care what happens to me now. We're going to do this.
Like I told you, my mom is like that. And she's a firecracker. When she decides to explode, she'll disregard that it's like a guy that's 200 pounds or something. She'll just go blind and just like attack. And I'm like, she doesn't realize, she doesn't care. It doesn't matter. Once the threshold is crossed, it's like this kind of crazy blind rage.
Yeah, and that's dangerous.
And you got to pull her off with somebody. You got to literally pull her off with somebody because she's like attack mode. And that's how I feel like, Kira doesn't play. She's like, I will go down. You might take me out, but you're going to get the fight of your life on your hands. So good luck. Yeah.
Definitely. That's how I approached it. And that's what I felt.
Yeah. It definitely comes across.
And there's a good chance she's not going to lose too, by the way. She's like, I might go down, but probably not.
Probably
Don't bet on it.
Yeah, but it's the reckless abandon that you attack it with. It's just the fearlessness of not being afraid to. You don't process whether you're going to win or lose. Yeah. It's not even about that. It's just like, this is what I have to do now. That's what I got out of Kira. She's like, I have to do this now. They're like, I don't know what else is going to happen, but you guys go. This is what I have to do. And I feel like
if we're going to analyze it, what makes it dangerous is someone has made a decision and turned off their mind. And now it's dangerous, but also if we're just thinking of intentions or goals, it makes it very powerful because it's like, now I'm not going to use my brain going, wait, should I? What's going on? Is this too much? You're all in.
It's more effective. Yeah.
It sure is.
Well, guys, we do have to run to our break real quick. We're going to talk about what a sweetie Damar is for leaving a cooling unit all ready for them. He had it prepared for you guys. What a giver. He's such a good guy. But Nana, this has been so great. We really appreciate that you've always found the time to jump on our show and share all of your thoughts and your memories with us. You portrayed one of the most iconic characters in the history of television. And we really appreciate you, Nana. So thank you so much.
It's been a joy to be with you both. Thank you so much for being so kind and welcoming, always.
Mm-hmm.
We love you, Nana. We love Kira. And, Kira Nerys forever. She's just badass.
Colonel. That's Colonel now.
Oh, yeah. Colonel Kira Nerys. That's right.
All right. So everybody stick around. Thank you to Nana. And we will see you on the other side on the 7th rule.
Love you, Cirroc.